Welcome back, everybody, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Madden 20 franchise rebuild. We failed our goal once again this season of winning the Super Bowl. We've made it pretty far these last few years. We made it to the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. And now this past year, we made it to the NFC Championship game, but look completely overmatched against the Dallas Cowboys. Now in this series, we have basically built this team using the same core of players, I'd say. There's been a couple changes over the years, of course, like any other season and team, but I feel that our core has largely been the same since I took this over, added Tyrus Sparks and pass rusher Yannick Ngakoue, and we've been developing Chris Godwin alongside Mike Evans into one of the best receiver tandems. But sadly, the reality is that these things do come to an end. These windows, that is. And I'm starting to wonder, after losing as badly as we did, has the window with this particular core shut? The Cowboys obviously have a stronger team, top to bottom. They are really dominant, and I'm surprised they didn't win the Super Bowl. But regardless, they're still a team that we have to get through if we want to make it there. So with a lot of regression coming to our core this season and expiring contracts across the board, I'm thinking we're going to make this team look a little different going into next year, and I'm not exactly sure what state the roster's going to be in yet. There are still players I'd like to keep, and players I'm thinking about letting go. So we got to start somewhere. We have a big re-sign stage today, and hopefully we can put together a better draft than we've seen in a little while. We're going to need to get some more impact out of this draft class. I'd like to find a way to get some early impact, but having our top pick at 60 overall does not make that super likely. I traded our first round pick a year ago as we moved up to select Sylvester Clark, and while that hurts us in terms of picks and it wasn't a super necessary decision, at least we do now have some good young offensive linemen. Clark, Coakley, Heenan. I think that most teams would give a lot to have a 3-man core this good and this young. So that's a place for us to start. And of course, with a quarterback like Tyrus Sparks, I don't care what state your roster is in, you're only ever a year away from fixing things completely. Sparks has been really good now over the course of the seasons he's been on our team. 4 years now in the series. We haven't had a bad year from him yet, and I doubt we are anytime soon. So we're going to continue to put good players around him and hopefully make some good strategic decisions here regarding how we're going to handle this overall roster. I know that you can't just keep good players forever because they've been good. I've seen that firsthand fail when the 2009 Vikings looked like they were going to go to the Super Bowl with Brett Favre. They couldn't do it, but then the next season they brought back all 22 of the same starters and cut their win total in half. So there comes a point where a window shuts on a core even if those players haven't retired. And as soon as players stop improving and start regressing, I think that's when that window shuts. I've made a lot of decisions over the past few years in the franchise that I thought would lead us to a Super Bowl for that specific season. Decisions like going with Miles Sanders over developing somebody like Angel Copeland right away, who we now know has star development. So, solid development, not quite Jesse Reyes development, but he's going to get some chances this year. But it's decisions like that that I thought would bring us a ring now. We got J.J. Watt, of course, and I just felt like those were the right decisions to make if I wanted to maximize the window that we had. But now, as we kind of transition into the next chapter with this team, I'm going to be more willing to play some young players that still need time, and hopefully with players like Leonard Merritt on the roster, we can see them become part of our next core. But to see us lose by 30 with a maxed out defense in terms of morale, I've kind of accepted what this era was for the team, a good one that couldn't get it done, and now it's time to see what's next. So we get into re-signing, and a lot of the key players have regressed a little bit, and let me refresh my memory on that. I showed it at the end of last episode, but for a lot of the players, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but still, keeping everybody isn't a good idea. Marpet, Evans, those two are very expensive. O.J. Howard's now 29. We have J.J. Watt, who did not retire. Shockingly, he did not retire, and I, right now, do not intend to bring him back. I think that maybe if the price comes down on the open market, but not for the 1 year $15 million he's asking for at the moment. The first decision I'll make here, I like to start with easier decisions first, and that's going to be to not negotiate with Jerron Booker. We added 2 good young tackles last season, and now Booker will move on to a new team. I'm really surprised that Levante David hasn't retired yet, but his skills have declined a lot, so we are not negotiating with him. Rashad Perriman has started regressing a bit, and with the need to get younger receivers on the roster, I'm going to have to move on from some of the older ones, so we're not negotiating with him. Bradley Pinion is now 30, and I'll look for a younger punter that might help us save a little money at the same time. I think that with Sparks and his new salary cap number, I have to be a lot more careful with that. I've decided we will make this offer to Will Tate. It's a little under $5 million a season. He is a solid player, and with the morale boost especially, that's looking pretty good. But I think morale gets reset at the start of every season, so it shouldn't stay at 99 for everybody. But he's still a good player. Now let's get to some of the hard stuff here. Starting with 2 defenders, J.J. Watt, Yannick Ngakoue, great players, but I think now is the time for us to move on. We're not negotiating with either player. Ngakoue is 29, wants over $20 million a season. I'm not going to make that deal, not now. And J.J. Watt, 1 year, $15 million. I think I want to play a younger player there potentially. Tremaine Sullivan, we acquired him in the Jesse Reyes deal, and while he played some snaps last year, he didn't give us the sack production we were looking for, didn't really stand out in any way, so there's no chance I'm giving him $10 million for this year. If we check out how many snaps he actually played, I'm assuming it'll be in the neighborhood of 350, 400. It's a little bit more than that, so he played a pretty good amount of snaps and just wasn't productive. Jason Myers was solid for us last season. I would definitely like to keep him around. It was maybe the best year of kicking we've had all series, but he's going to test the open market instead. The receiving core was pretty young when this series began. Mike Evans is now 31, Chris Godwin's getting older, but I still feel that we need to keep at least a couple of these veterans, and Mike Evans is one I absolutely want on this team, whether it's via franchise tag or this 3-year contract. And by waiting, the offer has come down, I believe, a little bit for Evans. He's still a top 10 wide receiver in our league. He's still really good, and a big reason why Tyrus Sparks has put together a great 4-year stretch. So Mike Evans is one player I don't want to move on from, but he is still testing the open market unless I use the franchise tag, which will be for a lot of money. I'd also like to make a deal with Ali Marpet, who's just one of the best guards in the game, and I don't like having to worry about filling big offensive line needs. We do sign Ali Marpet, and I'm thinking I'll keep him at guard, and it's very possible this year that Frederick Hughes starts at center, and we stick with him after he showed some good potential here during this season, where he got a really high amount of playing time. Hughes is only a 69 overall, and he may never become a great center, but if he can even be average, I think that's decent. We do have Clark, Coakley, Heenan, and Marpet, and I don't think you have to have like 5 super high quality starters. I think the way we sit right now, the offensive line can be set as far as a starting 5 goes, and I can focus on other areas. Kendrick Bourne has been really reliable since we added him, but there was some regression this season. This deal, though, is by no means unreasonable, and I would like to keep Bourne. My goal is still to add some receivers. He's going to test, though. It's just, we have cap space. I will keep some veterans, But like I said, I'm already willing to move on from a lot on defense especially. Right now, my philosophy is that we're an offensive football team, even though they let us down big time in the playoff game. I still feel that the offense is the backbone of this roster, and that will buy us some time, I think, on defense to develop some players. Let's try to get this 2-year deal done with Nick Nelson. That will work. Corner depth, very important to me. I still want to add potentially a #1 caliber corner this offseason, though. Jordan Leggett, I'm thinking more of a 1-year deal myself, so it might have to happen on the open market, and that's the case. So those are the decisions then for this re-sign period. And indeed, I will be placing the franchise tag on Mike Evans. It'll be a big payday for him this season, and it's $22.3 million. And it still leaves us a lot of cap space that I want to maybe use if the opportunity is right, but we'll just have to see what happens. Here's how things look at the moment. The offense mostly intact then. We'll have to figure out if we can bring back Kendrick Bourne or find another complimentary receiver. But as far as the offensive line goes, I'm not planning on doing a lot with that group. O.J. Howard's now 29, Mike Evans 31, Chris Godwin 28. So we still have an older skill core on offense, but I still feel that's going to be the best way for us to move into the future while we get younger primarily on defense. We have one edge rusher on the roster right now in Robert Cush. I'm certainly looking to add another or 3. So basically, my top goals right now are to find another edge rusher and to get a #1 corner. That is something we've never had in this series, and I think it can make a big difference in some of these key playoff matchups. I could also address the defensive line, but there are still some young players I want to play. Leonard Merritt is here, and I think that he's progressing nicely coming off a good season. And then Travis Cannon, who did a lot of developing as a rookie. I'm not sure if he played a lot, but I upgraded him, I think, 3 times. We do have $53 million in cap space. So yes, I could have kept probably Ngakoue and J.J. Watt, but I'm less focused now on just the current season and trying to be a little more long-term oriented because of the way this window has just gone on and how we have to transition forward. Even though we kept like Mike Evans and Nelly Marpet, I still feel I have to be a little more future oriented. But looks like J.J. Watt could be going to Cincinnati or back to Houston potentially. So that is your top look here at the free agent market. There are some really good ones, like 3 of the best players are tackles, so we're immediately out of that market. There are a lot of good offensive linemen here, but we're looking elsewhere. There is not a #1 corner on the market. The top is Holton Hill from the Vikings, and he's only a 79 overall, and we have 3 players in that overall tier, so the draft is going to be where I have to address that. We're going to make a 1-year offer here. You know what? A 2-year offer for backup safety Alan Redman. He's 25 years old in his 5th season, will be anyway. And he has good hybrid skills, and it's something our defense looks for. I like that man coverage there. Might help against tight ends a bit. So we'll try to sign him. Why'd it reset my offer? I don't like that. Jason Myers, please come back. I will make a 1-year offer for him. You didn't think I forgot about Gabe Morrell, right? In that Philadelphia matchup, we saw his receiver skills. They were a bit thin there, and he had to go actually play wide receiver, and he has the skill set to go there. So in the Brown series, we had a receiver, Perry Cummings, turned running back. I want Gabe Morrell on our roster, but I'm serious. I don't want to play him at running back. At least, not right away. I want to move him to wide receiver. And we're going to give him a 1-year offer or 2-year offer to do so. I expect a pretty soft market here for Jordan Leggett with all the 74 overall plus tight ends. So 1-year deal is made or offered. We're going to have to get some edge rush help on this team, and I want a little competition there. So the first player I'm going to offer to is veteran Javonte Whitaker, 82 overall at 27 years old. So the Sullivan experiment didn't work. I'll make a decent 2-year offer here to Whitaker. Stage 1 complete. We made 5 offers. How many new Buccaneer players are there? We got Whitaker, so another edge rusher. Jason Myers is back. We do get Redmond, the backup safety. So 3 out of 5 have signed. I'll up the offer a little bit here on Gabe Morrell. I really want him on this team. I think that his receiver skills would be very nice depth on our roster. Plus, I think he could also offer some good returnability. Here are some of the league signings now. Yannick Ngakoue goes to the Eagles on an $81 million contract for 4 seasons. So that is a steep price, but we know what his ceiling is like and how good he can be. Richard Martinez going to Seattle. J.J. Watt gets the big 1-year deal to go to Cincinnati. The Eagles even sign a good guard here, Daniel Devy, to a big 4-year contract. He's only 25 years old, so it's his first big deal. And here are some of the other ones around our league. Tremaine Sullivan will be going to the Saints, so a good chance we see him again. Kendrick Bourne, by the way, got a deal to go to Kansas City. So Bourne was really good for us, but we're looking to move on now with a new slot receiver. I just tried to make a move. I've considered trading Vita Vea, being that he's another veteran on our defense. And I wanted to see, what potentially we could get. I didn't think a first-round pick was all that realistic here. The Bengals won't make that deal. But I wonder, is a 2 worth it? Like, what is worth it to trade Vita Vea? We might be able to make a deal with the Browns if I throw in a 3rd or 4th round pick. So is that worth it? Let's see what the draft looks like right now. For it to be worth it for us to move up, I think it has to be to get a true defensive difference maker. Someone who is really young, really talented, that can be a cornerstone player for a long time. I'm willing to give up players and picks to make that happen, but there has to be the right player. And I've talked about wanting to upgrade at corner. And this class, while it looks like there are some good early round options, I'm just not convinced that there is a top flight corner in this class. Dominic Peel, solid top 3. It says early round 1 talent, but B's and B minuses across the board? Like, to me that says that maybe this class just isn't great and Peel is the best of a not great class. I don't know. I'm not saying he's bad. 6'1", 22, solid combine, checks out, 4.45 40. The top 3 is good, but is it good enough? Travis Roundtree, man-to-man corner. Tay Aldridge, Terrell Fulk. Like, Fulk is a late 1 talent with that top 3, and that to me is just really concerning and potentially risky. If we check out my draft board, there are a couple players later who are intriguing. Braden Thomas, whose 40 wasn't that great. Good zone defender, but maybe not a number 1 caliber corner. And that's what I think this team is lacking in the secondary. There's JoJo Jones from Utah State. Decent skills, but is he going to be enough of a difference maker? I don't think there's a corner worth moving up aggressively for. Where this class is strong is at edge rusher. Ishmael McKinley. Mid-first round talent, early 1 projected from Northern Illinois. He does have very good finesse moves and speed. So a player like him could go a long way towards replacing Yannick Ngakoue. But it's a fairly deep class without a great degree of separation for a lot of these players. When you have Rhett Schaefer here, who's a 3rd round talent, but still has B+ power moves. He's 21 years old. I guess he's more of a defensive lineman, but we could use defensive linemen too. What about Kevon DeVoe, a third-round prospect with late-1 talent out of Arizona, and he has, I think, everything you look for in a day-1 starter at edge rusher. He has the finesse moves to get to the quarterback, plus block sheds, so you're not worrying about him being a liability there. Like, Kevon DeVoe is one of my favorite players so far in this class. Here's a good value too, Niles Collins, who had one of the best bench presses in this class at the position. Good pursuit, tackle, and hit power. He's a power rusher, just a 5th round talent, or 5th round projected player. At defensive tackle, even more talent. Tom Costanzo just shredded the combine here. Every drill he did well in, with elite finesse moves, high block shed. That's the kind of talent I think could replace J.J. Watt. But wait a minute here. That's not the only intriguing player. Jamichael Martin, late 7th projected, late 2 talent. With that top 3, the combine checks out. Very, very intriguing. You really can't go wrong here for front 7 talent, it feels. There are so many good rushers, so many good defensive linemen. Jamario Foley, 1st round projected, 1st round talent, 21 years old. So I look at this as being a very doable situation for bringing in some talent this year, but you don't necessarily need to move up to do it. So is there a player worth trading up for? You want a difference maker at running back? Well, we found a couple good ones in the 3rd and 7th round. You want a wide receiver that can complement Godwin and Evans and eventually take over for one of them? Well, the early round guys are all overrated, and then you got Carl Greer here in the 3rd round potentially. Not dominant speed, but good agility and very sure-handed. So what does that leave us with as far as round 1 talent goes in trading up? I guess at that stage, it's just trading up for good defensive linemen when it's one of the best defensive line classes that I've ever seen. So with that being said, perhaps moving up doesn't make sense even if I want to. I am interested in bringing back Mitchell Schwartz as tackle depth, but not to be a starter. What if we check out the trade block? Typically, you don't find, major difference makers here. I'd love to address corner, but the opportunities are just not there unless we try to trade for a top flight corner on another team. So what if we tried the trade for one of the better corners in the game? I took a look at some of the teams that weren't very good a year ago, and their corner situations. We have the Raiders here who have Byron Jones. He's 31, and they do have some other corners, some that are pretty young, that they may be wanting to play a little bit more. Trevor Batch is here, by the way, number 19 ranked. The Jaguars still have Jalen Ramsey here in this series, 99 overall, at 29 years old. What's his contract looking like right now? It is up in 2 seasons. So that's an option. Another option would be to look to Green Bay. Jair Alexander, 27 years old. He is the number 8 ranked corner in our league, a true number 1, and he'd be under contract for a few seasons. So what would it take to bring Jalen Ramsey to Tampa? I see one of their team needs is defensive tackle. I know this won't work just straight up, but how far does it move the bar? For Vita Vea, not even close. I'm not expecting it to be very easy to trade for Jalen Ramsey. If I throw in a 3rd round pick, I know we're still not even halfway there. Green Bay also has some interest in Vita Vea. So, what about this situation? About the same. Teams are not willing here to give up star players, it seems. It looks like it's about as difficult to trade for Alexander as it was Jalen Ramsey. What about 1 year of Byron Jones? His deal is up after this season. I'll do the same setup here. They have a need at defensive tackle. They like Vita Vea. It's not going to happen. Like, it's just really not gonna happen. I'd love to make a deal here, but I don't see one. And I know the Ollie Sparks story is going to continue. He's now an 81 overall going into his 3rd season. Could Ollie Sparks come to Tampa? I still have interest in him. I still think that at running back with Copeland, we have someone who can develop, but Sparks would be a good young difference maker. But it's all about if we can make a deal. I tried last year, really didn't work. I don't know what they're asking. And they're asking for a whole lot more than a 3rd. Alright, stage 2 took a long time. Let's move on now, see if we get any deals done or trade offers. I have some players on the block. We do bring Mitchell Schwartz back to Tampa. That's the only deal for now. Really trying to get this deal done for Morrell. I like his skill set a lot. What if I throw another year onto this contract? Make it 3 years, $9 million. Like, I haven't been lowballing him. I had my bid in the 70s. Now it's 98. Can we get a deal done? Let's go to the next stage now. On to stage 4. And Gabe Morrell has accepted the deal. And we have trade offers for Vita Vea. But I want to see, you know, if I take Morrell and move him to receiver, I don't care about overall a ton, but I guess I'm still interested in seeing if it goes up. So Morrell is a really good receiving back. After seeing him play, we bring him here. And at wide receiver, he would go from 73 overall to 68. A lot lower than I thought it would be, actually. I think his skill set, though, is good for the slot work. A lot of the stuff that, like, Kendrick Bourne was doing. Good short route running. I guess the deep route running is really weak. But 68? That seems low to me. So let's see these trade offers for Vita Vea. I'm not expecting anything incredible. 3 and a 6, 3, 6, 7, 4 and a 6, future 2. Yeah, these are not the deals I was hoping for. And given the way this class looks, I don't think a trade is necessary. Now, there are always, like, ideas for how things should be done here, and, you know, you hope to accomplish certain goals in the offseason, like get a #1 corner or something. But opportunities have to present themselves first before they can be attainable. And the opportunities are just not there this year for certain things I want to do. There's no doubt this is a strange draft class with all the talents at the top that are overrated, like 1 or 2 position groups that are extremely deep. This is going to be difficult, and it's going to be tough to go all the way with what I wanted to do this offseason as far as moving on from players. Like, I'm not moving on from players without at least a plan for filling in their spot. And I'm hoping to get defensive line and edge rush help. Corner looks out of the question. I don't know that wide receiver is going to give us a huge difference maker. Maybe. Alex Weston here, deep threat, good deep route running, good spec catch. He's 3rd round projection. Free agency is now over, and it's time for the NFL draft, everybody. 2024. By the way, down below, Julio Jones retired. A lot of key players retiring here around the league. And now it's time for us to begin a new draft and hope that we can make some changes on this team that can take us into the future on a positive note. Obviously, picking at 28th in the 2nd round, I am not looking to trade up anywhere near this high. So we're going to do a little simulating to start out. I'm really interested in what kind of overalls we see here in the 1st round, as the Raiders go linebacker first, Lester Dugans from Stanford, followed by Chris Flynn, a 75 overall tight end, then a 65 overall center goes number 3. This is the kind of draft class we're dealing with today. Dominic Peel. I'm interested in his top 3. I'll write his name down. I just feel that maybe if he has high development. That's the thing with everything. If they have high development, of course they're good, but there's no real indication based on like top 3. That's bulk of what we get to work with. Combine numbers, top 3. So he's probably going to be fine, but the top 3 didn't shock me in any way. And look at the overalls. I may have given up our first round pick and didn't need to necessarily, but a first round pick this year has a lot less value than in most seasons. That's for sure. Tom Costanzo, really interested in his ratings, A- finesse move, and he goes to Indy. The receivers are going, even though they're a little overrated, and the overalls are not great. Not for day 1 impact, maybe not even day 2 impact. But the defensive linemen that are going all show some potential. And now we have the Bengals going quarterback in the first round, TJ Schmidt. There's another good defensive lineman. Darquez Gregory goes to the Chargers. Here late in the first round, if we take a look at our draft board, we do have a few second round talents that definitely stand out. And I'll have to figure out who I think is most worth moving up for. When I go through all these positions, my favorite player, I believe, is Kevon DeVoe from Arizona. I just think that his high finesse move and block shed give him a nice well-rounded skill set as an edge rusher. He's only 22, solid athlete, good combine. I think he's my top guy right now, and he's only a 3rd round projected player. I also like Greg McGee from Western Michigan. He has good finesse moves as well. High awareness, so good intangibles right off the bat. 23 years old, still a solid athlete. Can't rank him higher than DeVoe, but he's also great. Of course, there's Jamichael Martin and Princeton Goodwin. Great defensive linemen here, and they're just going to probably go a little bit later. Martin specifically, but then Goodwin, yeah, he'll probably go late 2, I would think. There's even Jamichael Colombo here, so I'm thinking that edge rusher is easier to attack early, defensive line is easier a bit later on. There are even players that end here. I don't like how disorganized it is. I wish it was like interior defenders and edge defenders so I could organize this better. I know there's the overall draft board, but then I got overrated receivers mixed in too, so it's just too disorganized to deal with. So let's move on a little bit here, see what positions are being addressed as Greg McGee is off the board. Forget his projection, but a 70 overall I think is pretty good for this stage of the draft. Second round now underway. Kari Roll goes to the Raiders, a 74 overall running back. There's nobody I really want right now that's in the top 30 of the available board, so I'm not making any moves right now as Martin Woodard goes to Pittsburgh, a 73 overall running back. Lawrence Robertson, a 63 overall. Rhett Schaefer, I was wondering how good he'd be. He was a little overrated, but I still thought he'd be a good defensive lineman. Just needs some time there at 67 overall. Kevin Cruz at 69, another solid defensive lineman pick. All right, mid-second round, still moving along here. Terrell Fulk off the board. I'm interested in him because he was my favorite corner remaining in the class, and I considered, like, would it be worth it to trade up? But I just didn't think so. Not right now. So do I need to be nervous at all when it comes to the players I'm interested in right now? Obviously, I really like Kevon DeVoe, and he's number 28 right now on the available board, but there's a lot of overrated players here that probably won't get picked. We have made a trade with the New York Giants. We move up 12 spots. And we do so by trading away Cole Holcomb, who's one of our backup linebackers. DeVoe is just one of those players I have to have in this class, and I didn't want to miss. And so we give up a backup linebacker to have the chance at the guy I really want. I think that if we're going to have a dominant edge rusher, we've got to go take the guy that I like most. And he's only 22 years old, and I would totally be open to playing him as a rookie. I just got to find his position again. Kevon DeVoe, Arizona. He is our first pick of this draft. He is a 70 overall player with normal development. Would have loved to see hidden there. We don't get it, but he does have good speed, acceleration, and agility. Strong as well, which is nice. 80 finesse moves, 73 block shed. So I certainly think the foundation is there for him to become a good all-around player. And the way things are looking, he might play on day one. So we get DeVoe. And we'll see if any other edge rushers go higher overall than him. I wouldn't expect it. We pick again here pretty shortly. So we lose Cole Holcomb. I can probably find a good backup maybe in the draft or on the open market. Carl Greer goes to the Chargers. I wanted to take a receiver somewhat early this year, but again, like, for things to happen, the opportunities have to present themselves. Princeton Goodwin, he is taken at 69 overall. Henry Sweeting goes to the Giants, and we're on the clock now. Round 2, pick 30. You know, I don't normally want to take players here who are extremely overrated. I'm not going to do it right now, but when I look at receivers, I'm still intrigued by Arsenio Gordon. He's 22 years old. He's got adequate speed. None of these combine drills were bad. Plus, he's got a couple of good route running skills. Like, he might be worth taking later on if he continues to slide. If we check out our board, there are a couple receivers we can start to consider. Alex Weston, really good speed and deep threat. Now is probably a good time to take him. He's late 2 talent, so that's a potential option. Jerome Monroe, not as fast, decent deep route running. Edward Sims, what about him at defensive line? 24 years old, solid top 3, not a bad player at all. Braden Thomas, a little early to consider him. He's the zone cornerback here. JoJo Jones is later on. Adonis Askew, 4.31, A- juke, A- elusiveness. Just a ridiculous skill set here for him. I hadn't seen that 40 though. 4.31. Oh my goodness. What about Tracy St. Clair, the elusive back from Duke? 4.48. Not bad at 238 pounds with B+ break tackle and vision. So I think I'm looking at adding speed to this offense. It's just, do we take Weston or do we see if Adonis Askew is as special as he could potentially be? Now, Weston's a second-round talent, Askew a first. With that kind of speed and that top 3, I mean, ball carrier vision, first off, very important trait. It's an A-. A-is across the board. All right, we're making the pick. Adonis Askew is the selection at 71 overall normal development. 71 elusive back, 94 speed, 84 juke, 82 elusiveness. So a really good top 3. Really surprised he didn't have hidden development. And hopefully we can find a role for him. Running backs getting busy again, having Copeland and Sanders on the team. Alex Weston went the very next pick to Dallas at 68 overall. So I doubt that the pick I just made is going to be all that popular. But you've got to look at what's available when you select and where you can make the biggest difference. And I thought the upside there, taking Askew, was higher than the other selections, which are probably going to be on the board later on, or are at positions we don't need as much now. We got 2 third-round picks again, so let's get on with it here to the 3rd round of the draft. Looking for any standouts here. Quan Oliver, 68, Jordan Barnes, those two had pretty good ratings. Wow, 75 overall tackle, Bryce Hughes is going to Carolina. Nice find in the 3rd round. A 76 overall tight end, Tyler Wilhelm to the Giants. Brian Roberson is off the board, and here we are again, 2 picks upcoming now, and here, round 3, pick 23. Who's still there? We could take, some really good 4th round talents. This is a solid class for mid-round talent, that's for sure. After looking at all my options, I've decided that we are going to trade out of this pick. There's still a lot of value on the board, and only so many spots we need on the roster to fill. So we are going to trade out for a future 3rd and 5th round pick from Seattle. And so they have moved up this year to select Brian Lewis from Middle Tennessee State. Now we still have a pick here in just a few selections. There goes Derek Monroe at 68. Really interested in Jerome Monroe. That's who I wanted to see. 68 overall. Considered him, but with DeMarcus Lodge on the roster, I think we have a solid wide receiver 3. When I take a look at who's available right now, I think that one of the players that stands out most is Chantrell Anthony, but I don't want to take him. The reason is we have a lot of defensive tackles on the team right now, defensive linemen. We have 3 that all have pretty good upside. So it makes me want to spend these picks in different areas, even if we're reaching or whatnot. I need to address different positions too. And if I add in a good defensive lineman here, unless he's somehow better than Merritt, Hatcher, and Cannon, it's not worth it. Now, development projecting isn't something I really do because it is really difficult. You can look at a top 3 in a good combine and maybe have an idea that they'll have solid development, but that's not always the case. Like with Adonis Askew, just normal development, although one of the most talented players that we could have selected. So between Cannon, Merritt, and Hatcher, I think I want to play these guys. Cannon's entering year 2. Merritt's entering year 3. I believe Hatcher is in the same situation. And I'm already looking to trade Vita Vea potentially. So I think we have the youth there that we need. Although I still want to potentially address this even later in the draft. There was that 7th round prospect. But here where we're selecting, there's just more options to pick from. I'm going to take a player here that I think has a lot of potential. And if he has good development or a good top 3, he might find some early playing time. We're going to select linebacker Kyle Caver from FIU. He's a pass coverage inside linebacker, only 21 years old. Phenomenal athlete, solid bench, and good awareness to start out. Good tackling as well. He's our selection. And Caver is a 70 overall with normal development. So he has that field general skill set that I like so much. And I'd be interested in maybe playing him over Ben Burr-Kirven. Maybe he'd become expendable. But Caver, I thought, was a unique player. We could immediately replace Cole Holcomb with somebody much younger with more upside. So on to the 4th round we go, and there's Arsenio Gordon, 63. I was just intrigued. I wanted to take him with my next selection. And it looks like that wouldn't have been worth it at 63 overall. We'll check his ratings. Chantrell Anthony will also check his. I thought he was arguably the best player available there, but he wasn't the best player for us. JoJo Jones goes ahead of where I thought he would be taken. I was wanting to take him with like my 4th round selection or my 5th round selection. And he goes to Oakland now at 67. That's another spot where it's like, sure, there's talent, but we have fairly young players there. Is he going to be good enough to take that role? And Jamichael Colombo is now off the board. So some of my favorite players are starting to go, and the board is now going to get really thin. And now Floyd Hundley, fantastic. He's a tight end. I don't think I had showed his skill set, like a 4.68 40, like C's across the board for the top 3. But I mean, that's pretty good for a tight end because they almost never are that impressive coming out in these classes. So I don't expect that there's going to be a ton of players I love with this opportunity here in the 4th. 5 players on the entire board now. It goes quick here in the 4th round. And the trade opportunities are just not very good. So I'm taking the players I like. Don't care if it matches the projection or not. But I'm making my selection now. of Jamichael Martin. I've been really excited ever since I scouted his top 3. The combine checks out. He's certainly not a 7th round player. Jamichael Martin is a 68 overall defensive tackle from Michigan State, and we take him now. Strength is lacking. The speed is pretty good. Finesse moves is alright. Really surprised by that strength though, being as low as it is. Overall though, this just wasn't the class for our needs this offseason. I wanted a top flight corner. There wasn't really an opportunity worth trading up for. I think the one corner I liked went top 5, and that wasn't really realistic. I wanted edge rusher and defensive line. Okay, we got a good edge rusher and a defensive lineman. We also had some defensive linemen, and there wasn't like a blue chip talent that we could realistically trade up for to upgrade with. So we move past that to receiver. No, they're all overrated. And from there just wasn't a player that I thought would make a huge difference. Why not take Stephon Ellerbe here? He's on the board, speed rusher, 5th round talent. Ellerbe is the pick. Normal development. Still no hiddens in this class for us. Ellerbe a 62 overall. And we'll skip past all the 55 overall players here to our next selection. And I'm drafting a punter. I didn't even scout him. No clue if he's good, but if he is, it's a cheap 4-year contract. And Rob Reisner is the pick at 67 overall from K-State. And I don't know if he's good enough. And a 52 overall quarterback was Mr. Irrelevant, as this class and this draft comes to an end. I know it's not the class anybody wanted, but what were we supposed to do here? I took 370 overall players in a bad draft class, and we got a speed rusher, another running back, a solid linebacker in Kyle Caver. I would have loved to take a receiver and a corner, but it just didn't work out that way. But why don't we go see some of the players that I liked that we did not end up with. Beginning with Packer corner, that's Dominic Peel, who went number 5. Normal development even for him. And Peel had 77 man, 74 zone. So even trading up for him, without higher development in comparison to like Tate, Wilds, and Murphy Bunting, he doesn't separate himself outside of just being a rookie with this overall. So that wouldn't have helped us much. The Colts took Tom Costanzo, whom I thought was maybe the top player on my board, one of the top players, but he went very early, has hidden development in 75 overall, so that would have been the ideal replacement for J.J. Watt. The Panthers took Terrell Falk. Considered trading up for him, ultimately didn't, and I'm glad that we did not, because we have enough depth to where Falk wouldn't have gotten much playing time. I had to choose between a speedy running back and a speedy receiver. Shocker, I took the running back. Alex Weston, normal development for the Cowboys. 5'9", 94 speed. Tyler Wilhelm went to the Giants. They took 2 players over 75 overall, and Wilhelm has 74 speed, 58 catching. Well, at least he can block a little bit. I almost ended up selecting 63 overall receiver Arsenio Gordon from Baylor. He's only a 63 overall, and some of the route runnings aren't too bad, but his hands are just terrible to start out with. A lot of traits though. I also said that selecting Chantrell Anthony could only be worth it if he ended up having hidden development. Anthony does not have hidden development, so he would have been the 4th best defensive tackle on our depth chart, and I don't think with this skill set that he would earn playing time over our other players. What about JoJo Jones? Was there potential here? 67 overall, normal development again. I thought I'd at least get the tight end I liked in this class, but no, Floyd Hundley goes to the Chargers. Also, normal development. This was not a great draft class. There's not much more I could have done. Here are the top rated players in this class. inside linebacker, tackle, tight end, then Peel, who went number 5. There just wasn't a great chance here unless you trade up for Gregory, and even he has normal development. Where are all the hidden development players? There you go, Garrison McAllister, who went 15th overall to the Giants. Travis Roundtree, he was the player you needed. A hidden development corner, he went 9th overall. His top 3 was okay. It said he had first round talent. I didn't think so, but the skill set shows that he's not like super great to begin. It's just that development. He still has 73 overall though, so the first round talent does match. But that 73, where's it coming from? Man is 74, zone is 65. Does he have high awareness or something? 73. Okay. So maybe that's the deal there. Intangibles play a huge role in an overall rating. Here is how the team looks at the moment. It was not overhauled. It's not as different as I thought it could be. Like I wanted to trade Vita Vea. I had MJ Stewart on the trade block. I wanted to make some moves, but there just weren't moves to make that fit. So with that being said, I still want to play some younger players this season. I want to play DeVoe on day 1, give him a shot anyway in preseason to show he can handle that at linebacker here over Whitaker. I want to play Leonard Merritt, and I want to probably play Cannon or Hatcher, one of the two at one of these end spots. I'm still interested in trading Vita Vea and continuing to develop this young front 7. But unfortunately, could not get a really good cornerback this offseason. Could not get another wide receiver on the team outside of Gabe Morrell. So, I guess we'll see if there's any other moves we could potentially make before the season gets underway. But this is our team. One move I will make here to end the episode is to sign wide receiver Paris Campbell. I think he'll be good veteran depth on our team now. He's been in the NFL for 5 seasons in our series. He has good hands, better than most that are on the market, solid deep route running, and great speed. We're also going to bring back Jordan Leggett. I'm not sure why he didn't take the deal I offered earlier. So that is our team going into the newest year of the Bucs franchise. Like I've been saying, I want to move on from some of these older players. I wasn't quite ready to do so on the offensive side, especially without replacements eventually, at least on the roster that we hope could take over for these players. I've made some changes on defense. I'd like to continue making more, but we'll see what is in store with this team going into the next season. Please leave your feedback down below. What did you think of this offseason? Was there something I could have done amidst this offseason where it didn't seem like there was a ton, but maybe there was something I overlooked? Please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you guys with the next Buccaneers franchise episode. Have a great day.